Hey guys, Loco here with the Prophet or the Betrayer, whatever you want to call him. Hey Crumbz, how are you doing?
Hey, just coming back to League, don't mind me. Didn't go anywhere.
So, obviously you were in Overwatch League for the last year. What was it working in a game that's, I would say, not your primary game, something you had to learn completely new?
Yeah, it was a big learning experience. It was a big risk, obviously, for me. I had a pretty solid position already in the LCK. The biggest thing was obviously new production, new game. The biggest drawback for me was the fact that the pacing of the game is so much more different than in League, where in League it's okay, you've got time, you've got a pick and ban phase, you've got not a lot of flexibility as to what you can do with your champion selection. But in Overwatch, okay, you start the match and at the end it's like a completely different thing. And how do you convey that sense of flexibility to an audience is almost impossible. So you have to go into the very minutia, the micro of the game. So it's very elitist in that sense, where so much of it comes down to the individual players' decisions that made it really difficult for me to step in as a new person coming into the game saying, oh, this is what I think it is. Because if I didn't have that already, it's more of a, I'm not going to have the credibility regardless of whether I say something right or wrong.
So, at the end of the year, or when Overwatch and you decided to go separate ways, were you scared at all that you wouldn't have your, I guess, like analyst job back in LCS because there were new people like High coming in? Mark Z came in. I think no, he was there when you were there. So, I yeah, I can't imagine if your spot was guaranteed or not. So, were you scared at all? Where do I go now after Overwatch?
I thought I was done. I literally I was ready to sell all my suits. I was like, okay, I went on Poshmark, which I think you sell clothing online. So I was like, I'm ready to sell all my clothes that I used in League before. I'm done with this. I don't think I can go back. So I never even asked. And even when I first started in Overwatch League, my lawyer said, "Hey, so they're not gonna bend on this clause that says like they have the right to basically fire you at any time." I was like, "That's fine. That's like real life. Like I got no problems with that." So I always knew that something like that could happen, but I planned to come back to LA regardless of having the league job or not. And so when I went through with getting my visa, it was before I even knew that Riot was interested in me again. So I think after announcing that I was done with League a few weeks after that, or done with Overwatch, I got contacted. Hey, are you interested in going back to the analyst desk? I was like, yeah, why not? Sure, okay, this is cool. I really like. It was such a in hindsight, it was like such a stupid choice to go back into like monetarily wise. It's like this does not make sense, but it worked out. So I'm telling you, I switched things around. I'm doing the George Costanza. You just do everything that it sounds really stupid. You do it, and then it somehow always works out. You're like, great, knew it.
Not the best advice to follow. Just think of it as a life lesson,
No,
kids.
seriously, it's like taking really large risks, right? Like, how large of a risk can you take, and then how can you make sure that you minimize the damage till you get there? So, I was thinking about it in League today, where you're watching. Okay, you're watching these teams that make these really dumb mistakes. How could you possibly train them? What if you pause the game and you ask them, "What is the best thing you could do right now? Like, what is the maximum gain you could obtain?" And they're like, I don't know, we get 3 towers. Okay, then how do we do that, right? And then you start building a roadmap to that. It's kind of like that. It's like, what gives me the largest web to catch everything that could obviously catch a lot of bad things, but how do I then minimize the damage at that point?
High risk, high reward.
Yeah, I mean, we're young right now. Why not? Got a few years.
So, well, I'm 27. I feel old as hell.
I'm 26. We're in the same age.
We're gonna die soon, Crumbz. On a serious note, because we started playing pro when we were both, I would say I started somewhere around 1918-ish. So I'd imagine you kind of went through the same experience. When you're playing pro or even coaching, your time kind of freezes and you don't really mature as a person that much. You don't have life experiences. You have very special league experiences. And you learn a lot from it, but you miss out on basic life skills and basic life lessons. So even though I'm 26, sometimes I still feel like I'm 21.
12. I was going to say 12, dude. I mean, yes, the biggest thing is that you don't have a solid job and you don't learn to hold yourself accountable for things. Because as a pro, you're so pampered so much that then when I say, I want to learn this skill, like, how the hell do I learn it? I can Google it, and I know that I can see the steps, but then how do I get myself to commit to doing that if I just want to do it but don't have like the obsession that I had with a game? That's the biggest lesson for me. Where now, as a more larger child, I can hold myself accountable and say, if I want to achieve this, I'm gonna have to do these things.
So you came back to League, and you came back to LCS at a very weird time, I would say. This is one of the worst splits we've had in years that I can imagine. So what do you think about LCS right now?
I thought a big part of it was that so many teams are new, that were just trying new things. Especially you've got players that are with crazy salaries that are just on teams that make no sense on paper. And when it comes to synergy, just like, why would you start with these players, right? Why would you not build more strategically? On top of that, I think Hai made a really good point that the solo queue was especially deteriorating recently. I got to play it, and I think I peaked at D1 when I came. To be fair, I hadn't played in a year and a half, so I felt like that was pretty good. And yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. There's just no sense of what teamwork can look like organically. Like, what does teamwork look like? And I think that because in the LCS it looks bad, and then in solo queue it looks bad, there's no image for people to follow to say this is what the game should look like. That you need a team that says that unifies everything as the, what do you call it, the premier diamond, right? Like the perfect diamond is not perfect. It's just the diamond that everything replicates. So we don't have that, and so until we have that, I don't think it's going to spread to solo queue.
So some people might say that's TL. You don't think TL is that?
No, I mean TL is not that exciting like to watch. They're not doing crazy things that you would see, like say the team in China do, right? Like they're not going off on a limb and trying out new picks that make no sense. They always seem to have a detailed plan, which is not a bad way of playing the game at all. But I just don't think it's a way that captivates. How do you play as a team in a way that you can convince the guy that plays Mordekaiser bottom lane that he may need to switch things up, right? Like you need to be so good that you can be like, this is League of Legends. Like, wow, I've been convinced.
So yeah, maybe we don't have a team that just unifies everyone, but if the best team in the league right now, TL, isn't that, like, where does NA go from here? Like, TL is literally one of the best rosters you can make in NA. They have all-stars and...
You cannot make it any better, right? It's like at a peak, but I think that combined with the solo queue, it just takes time, right? It's spring split as well, so obviously teams are going to be a lot worse. I think that the coaching staff is probably a lot more flexible in trying things out. You sign a 1-year contract, you're thinking, okay, I can get by in the first half trying new things, and then in the second half, I might have to ramp up for the win. So maybe that's going on as well. But other than that, I mean, the role queue was really a huge problem. Like, that was just god awful. When I first got in, I was playing duo queue with a friend. He's like, "Oh no, this is really nice because then I can play like when I don't play the roles that I want." I was like, "I don't care." Like, you just said the problem. The problem was in your statement. Like, do you see where people stop caring? And just any moment where you start getting lethargic, it just spreads to everything.
So then, is there no hope for NA at MSI? Are we going to get stomped again?
No, absolutely not. The cream of the crop is great, right? Like the guys there that will get to scrim internationally. They'll take themselves a lot more seriously. Absolutely. It's just that the bottom fat is dragging everything down. It's like you got a really nice cut of meat, but there's just so much fat on it that you just got to get those scissors out and make it look pretty.
Damn. Do you miss relegations?
Yeah, actually. I think that was really fun. Honestly, because yes, it made the scene more ghetto. Absolutely. As an investment for turning esports into a business, it was a god awful thing to exist. But I'm talking exclusively from an entertainment point of view because I don't have any biases as an investor or anything like that. Of course, relegations are exciting because everything is on the line now, right? It's not just the player's job, it's the coaching staff, it's the team, it's the org, it's the logo, it's everything they've ever done. It's about to be put on the toilet. Is it about to be flushed? Yes or no. So that kind of risk is really exciting because I see it as like a modern day Roman gladiators. You put everything on the line. Now everyone's got something to lose. How much are you really going to care? And then you see a guy like Steve just shell out like crazy to try to get double lift in there to save off the relegation status. So you get all those wonky storylines that I thought always made the league really exciting. But obviously, from a long-term standpoint, if you want to have a sustainable career and make something great for everyone, you're gonna have to get rid of relegations.
I see why they asked you back on the caster desk. You can take like a concept like relegation, which is just god awful, and still glorify. I wouldn't say glorify, but talk about it in a very entertaining way.
Well, I think a big part of it is I like to say a lot of things that may be really dumb, and so like half of them stick and half of them don't. So it's a hit or miss on the desk for me. It's like, okay, I set a top. Is someone gonna run with it or not? It's like, okay, it was terrible. We'll move on. And then when it does, like, okay, great, you get the highlight reel.
Well, Crumbz, thank you so much for the interview, and if you guys enjoyed the coverage, don't forget to sub.
Yeah, watch him on twitch.tv/Locodoco.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Thank you so much to Low Key Community for making this interview happen. If you guys want to support them, the link is going to be down in the bio.